Thank you for joining us today here at TechRaptor. My name is Andrew Stretch. I'm here today with Kyle Shire, the game designer behind Queen by Midnight for the new Quarter Past expansion, standalone, everything, as well as Alex Uboldi, Darrington Press game production manager. To start it all off, I'd really be interested to hear from both of you how you got involved in creating this game.
The TLDR, I way back in the day, I had this weird idea for a card game that I had kicking around for a very long time, and was working a full-time job at a company that rhymes with Shmish Minima, and didn't really think anything was going to come from it. And then, long story short, Shmish Minima went Shmish away. Uh, and so I had a bunch of time on my hands, and I needed to fill it with something to do. And so this game kind of became like my reason to get out of bed in the morning for the longest time. And yeah, just kind of worked on it independently for a really long time. And the rest is history. I kind of put it on the back burner, and when Darrington Press came along, I pitched it to Ivan, and then thank God, someone as talented and wonderful as Alex Uboldi came along and managed to fish all of the good threads out of my tangled ball of mess, and managed to make a really great game. So, and now another one. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, when I started at Darrington Press, one of the first projects that was handed to me was the original Queen by Midnight. And I took it and I essentially played it with a bunch of different groups, and every group I played it with loved the game. So I'm like, okay, there's something very special here. So it was a lot of my job to basically help develop the art, develop the graphic design, go through all the cards and make sure there was consistency and things like that. So a lot of that was basically bringing Kyle's vision to life in the most beautiful way possible. So yeah, we did a lot of working together to make sure all the princesses felt like they were their identities, and they developed in cool and interesting ways that I think neither of us really expected. Just bouncing ideas off each other, it's like, oh wow, these princesses turned into fully fledged characters that both of us are super happy with. And it was very similar with the expansion. They were like, hey, we want to make an expansion for this game because we love this world and we want to see more from it. So Kyle laid out all of the design for the 4 new princesses, and is like, these are their vibes. This is the mechanics I want. Here's all the cards and what I think they should do. And I basically took that and did a lot of the same process where we, got a lot of concepts and art, and then we developed it into the game that you're seeing today.
Fantastic. And quickly dialing it back just a little bit before we talk about gameplay, it has been a year, a little bit over the year since Queen by Midnight originally released. How has the release and this first year been?
It's been great.
Go ahead, Kyle. Amazing. Oh, no worries. No, it's been a dream come true, literally. Yeah, I mean, just the any single time I'm able to go into a game store and see my game, and talk to game owners and just people who've been playing it, and to get their feedback and to get their just hearing that oh yeah, it's like the game that we like to take out on Sunday night, me and my family. There's no greater feeling. It's been wonderful, and yeah, it's been great.
Amazing.
Yeah, same. I love hearing all the stories of people saying this is my favorite game, or I really loved playing this game, or I won with this character and I really want to try these other characters. I always love hearing who won, who you played, and how they won. It's always a crazy story. It's like, oh, I won by stealing everyone's cloud, or I won by knocking out 3 princesses in one foul swoop. So those stories are really, that's why I do this. That's the whole point.
Amazing. So for this new expansion, you talked a little bit about it before. Who are the new princesses that people will play, and how is their gameplay different from some of the ones that you offered in the past?
Well, right from the start, I'm going to say that the gameplay in Quarter Past is definitely dialed up a notch from the core game. Just right from the jump, there are no quail cards in the princesses starter decks, which is a big change, because every princess in the core game has a quail card in their starter deck, which is if you are attacked, it is a basically a get out of jail free card for an attack. But in this game, That's not in your starter deck, but what is in your starter deck is a basic attack where you can roll the die of damage. So, you're seeing a lot of people just dole out damage on turn one, and you're seeing, that lethality and those grudges kind of get sown a little bit earlier than in the core game, which I think is just a fabulous touch. But yeah, and as far as the princesses themselves, Alex, how do you want to do this? Do you want to, I'll do two, you do two? How's
Sounds
that sound?
good.
All right. So I'm going to start off with my girl, Elise the Kraken. She is going to be basically like, if you were to take sort of like Ursula is to Divine, you will have Elise the Kraken is to Monet Exchange. Which
Amazing.
is basically just dialing back to the original conceit behind Ursula, and kind of making that the focal point for our mermaid princess. I think is just absolutely inspired. But basically, her whole bag is a grotto. It's her special banish pile. In Queen by Midnight, of course, there are cards. You can banish cards because it's a standard deck builder. But every other princess, when you banish a card, it goes in a communal banish pile. Except for Elise the Kraken, it goes in her personal banish pile, and she can do a whole. She can basically take a whole bazaar and just banish all of it and collect clout equal to the highest cost card in it. She's wonderful. She's a big whirlwind. And then basically she channels the power of her grotto at the end of the game with her ultimate, and then does a bunch of damage based on what cards are in it. So she's wonderful. The other one that I want to touch upon is Azel with a Z. Azel is sort of our wonderful little nod to Alice in Wonderland, our sort of like fun, absurdist, surreal princess. And her whole vibe is that she actually is the only princess in the game that has access to all three classes: Brawler, Schemer, and Caster. She's always a caster, but she always flips between Brawler and Schemer depending upon if she's grown or shrunk. So she's wonderful. I always tell people, like, she's the chaos character. So if you're not really interested in winning, but you just want to cause a bunch of chaos, you got to play Azel. And Alex, I'm going to kick the other two over to you.
Yeah, so the other two we have Kasima Al-Basar, who is sort of our Princess Jasmine meets Aladdin monologue. Like by
Okay.
day she's a princess, and by night she's a vigilante who protects her kingdom personally. So we wanted to create this character that felt like she had a bunch of tools to do espionage and like other tricky things, but also if she needs to, she just doles out a bunch of damage because she is a great fighter. So she's a very jack of all trades character, and I think she's a lot of fun because she has this power to permanently grow her prowess to become stronger and stronger and stronger, which a lot of characters in the base game, you could maybe you could increase a level for a turn, or you could maybe get a little bit stronger, but her core deck is all about building her levels up to absurd numbers and dealing massive damage. So we really had a lot of fun making her. And then the final princess is Kahu Rere Skyfisher, who is Carrie Fisher's Princess Leia meets Moana. And she is a very unique princess because she's a rebel. She's not fighting for the monarchy, she's fighting to tear down the whole system. But because she doesn't have like this grand kingdom, she kind of has to do it through more covert means. So her mechanic is laying traps for all the other princesses, and they basically can either keep the traps in their hand and it counts as a dead card, or play the traps to get a new card, but the trap will do something to help Skyfisher. So she sort of presents all the other princesses with this choice of, do you want to sort of like work together and give us both benefits, or do you want to just stubbornly stick to your guns and like not help either of us? So I really like her character because she does a lot of she's very interactive. Everybody's like, oh, you're putting stuff in my deck, like, why are you doing that? It's like, no, it's good, actually it's bad, and if you don't play it, I can hit you with a sniper rifle. So I like her gameplay because let's let you talk to the whole table, and it kind of involves everyone, and I think that's where the game's the most fun.
It's like you have to interact with me while there's like a knife at your throat.
Yeah.
I really have to give Alex just huge props because when I presented this mechanic, there was a lot of back and forth over whether or not it was possible and how we were going to make it work, and I'm so happy that Alex was able to make it work with the way that it plays out in the game. She's wonderful. I truly love the idea that like she can do a whole bunch of damage by just kind of like sitting back, which is one of my favorite kind of characters to play in games like this.
Yeah, the first time that I played with these new characters, I was playing Azul with a Z and absolutely loved growing and stomping characters. But the quick build up that Albasar has is terrifying, truly terrifying. When crafting these new characters and these new mechanics, what kind of work goes into balancing them, not only in themselves, but against so many other permutations?
Yes, there is a lot of work that goes into that. So, um, essentially, what we did was we went and looked at the original princesses and formed a sort of baseline power level that we did for the balancing of that game. And so we scaled everything to sort of match that power level. But because we were making these changes to the core deck, like Kyle mentioned with taking out Quell, it changes the dynamic of these princesses to be much more aggressive and much less defensive. What that means is their cards that deal damage or gain clout can be a lot more powerful because these princesses have the inherent weakness of being more vulnerable, especially in the early turns of the game. So that created a really fun dynamic because against each other, they felt very balanced. They were all playing very aggressively and interactively. And then
Hmm.
against the core set princesses, we found there was really interesting gameplay between these sort of like princesses who like were holding off an assault and trying to go over the top, or princesses who were really trying to race down their opponents, and it sort of created a very interesting dynamic that I think the first game, like not a bunch happened in the first three turns just because people had so many defensive options. So a lot of it was designing each princess in a silo, fighting the princesses against each other in the expansion, and then sort of mixing and matching princesses to check for outlying cases of certain interactions happening between the core game and the expansion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't imagine when everything can get immediately so complicated within its own deck, let alone throwing in the bizarre cards that just that's a lot of work.
The Bazaar cards were actually a really fun opportunity for us in terms of balancing because we were able to look at all of the cards that fans really liked and then some of the cards that less people didn't like or didn't play that much. And we were able to design a brand new Bazaar just for the expansion that I think a lot to solve some of the frustrations people might have had with the core game.
Mhm.
And I love the new Bazaar because you can play it on its own and it creates a lot of really fun situations, or you can mix it in with the base bazaar and just kind of have like a wild game where anything can happen. So yeah, we thought the bazaar was a great opportunity, and I like the new bazaar deck a lot because there's a lot of fun tools in it that I'm like, oh, I always wish I could do that in the core game. It's like now you can in the bazaar, like you can do wild stuff like turn the clock back an hour or end the game immediately. It costs you a lot of clout to do that, but
Mhm.
so you can kind of do a lot of wackier stuff in the expansion.
Where did the first discussions about bringing out an expansion come from? Was that something that you had extra ideas cooking around, or was it the company saying we'd really love to do more?
I would say they always kind of came a little baked in with the originally. But yeah, basically, way back in the day, I decided I was going to, ski uphill and make a game with 12 princesses in it. And so I had cooked up rough ideas for like 12 different princesses. And then eventually I was like, this is madness. I'm just going to cut this down to six that I felt like were the six most baked out of them. And then basically, I had these other six kind of like just kicking around, and I kind of included their rough ideas for potential expansions in the first game. But we just kind of were like, well, let's just see how the first core six
Yeah.
go. And then when Alex, hit me up and was like, hey, let's talk about an expansion. I just basically looked at the six that were remaining and we're like, okay, of these six, which four are the most baked out of them? And also like, which four am I, would I be most excited about presenting? And it was definitely these four. So yeah.
I kind of love the idea that in the lore there's just like two missing princesses now. Where are they? Maybe we get a
I
half
don't know.
past.
We're gonna have to figure that out, Mr. Uboldi. I have an idea, but we'll see.
Something that I do really appreciate about Queen by Midnight Quarter Past is that it manages to somehow be standalone and almost like a travel version of the base game, it's forward and compatible with the original game, and then it also includes a number of errata cards based on updates from last year. I feel like a lot of companies would have, chosen to release, princess expansions, and you've gone the extra mile by doing this. How did the thought come to building it out as a complete package?
Oh, so yeah, that was very important to us from the beginning because we saw that Queen by Midnight did really well, but some people were like, "Oh, I don't want to invest, $70 into
Hmm.
this game." I'm looking, I that seems like a lot of jump for a game I'm not really sure about. So we really wanted to design Quarter Pass as a great entry point for new players. It had a lower MSRP. It is lighter and more travel sized, and it sort of plays in this self-contained little package. And we really wanted it to work well on its own because we even designed a lot of the princesses and the bazaar cards to be simpler and still mechanically deep, but easier to parse, easier to resolve, less weird, complex corner case interactions. Like a lot of that we toned down to try to make this as approachable as a new player entry as possible. So if you're interested in the game and you wanted to get it, this is definitely the great intro point. And then if you're like, this game's really fun, I want the cool clock tower and 6 more princesses, you can sort of backwards upgrade into the deluxe version, which is the core game essentially. So yeah, we really wanted this to be a great starting point, but we also wanted it to be like a cool addition for fans that provided those errata cards, so you don't have to like print them out if you really want to have like the perfect version of the game, but also was like, hey, maybe we can just take this travel size experience. Maybe I take my 4 favorite princesses from all of them and just put them in this box, and then I travel with that to a convention instead of bringing all of these things with me.
I would love to know from you guys, when you sit down, when you pull out the massive, beautiful clock tower, who's your favorite princess to play, and what about their mechanic is what brings you to them?
I'm,
You go
I'm
first,
gonna.
Kyle.
No, I'm gonna let you go first. Okay. Okay. This is hard because you're literally telling me to pick my babies. Um, but that's okay. Uh, I think right now, I'm gonna be very political and I'm gonna pick one from both. I'm going to pick probably it's always just gonna be her. I'm sorry. It's Boss No. I'm gonna pick Boss No because I never like being the direct. I always like coming at people sideways in these
Hmm.
games. You know what I mean? I never like being super duper direct. I always like making alliances and stuff. So give me like a 4 to 5 player game where I can be Boss No and I can make alliances and break alliances. I'm into it. Quarter past. I gotta have my Skyfisher. I gotta have my
Hmm.
Skyfisher. Yeah, traps are so fun. It's yeah. I don't want to oversell it, but yeah, I'm having a good time with it.
So you're like
Anyway,
you're a
Alex, what do
very
you think?
sneaky, conniving player.
I like the sneakers. I like the sneakers. I'm sorry.
Um, this is a really difficult question because, like Kyle said, it's like choosing between children. It's interesting because, like, as we were designing the characters, each one was sort of my favorite character at the time we were designing it. So it's like Elise LeCracken came first, and I just loved banishing the bazaar. That like felt so fun to like accumulate this horde of cards, and then. Skyfisher with the traps was super fun, and then Azel just being able to like grow and shrink and use any card in the bazaar felt like really flexible and interesting. But I think like as I played the game more in testing, I found myself going back to Kasima over and over again as sort of like my comfort character. Because Kasima, she makes the game feel very exciting, not only for you, but the people playing against you, because she's so dangerous. So it's like you don't want to draw her ire, but because she's so dangerous, you kind of want to like knock her out. So when you're playing her, it always feels like you're on this knife's edge of like, how aggressive do I go? How non-aggressive do I go? And I think that is so fun playing on this sort of like, I could knock you out, but I could not knock you out. Like, you have to be my friend, or maybe I could betray you. Like, it gives you a lot of agency and power in the game. And I think that's like I think that is where I feel most at home playing Queen by Midnight. I like having the sense that like at any moment I could go crazy and like deal a bunch of damage, or I could be your best friend, right? Like that's like a really fun dichotomy to sort of play up at the table.
I think Casima's kind of like you're in a bar, you're in like a bar brawl fight, and then all of a sudden Batman walks in.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do? Oh God.
It's so cool hearing you guys talk about your like individual strategies and stuff, in the grander context of the game is you're playing princesses trying to undercut each other to become the queen by midnight. You guys are really sounding like you're going into it with like, I'll cut someone to become the queen.
Hey, you gotta want it. Unless you're Skyfisher, in which case you gotta wanna destroy it.
Yeah. The artwork of her standing in front of the exploded clock tower
I
is
love that one.
so good.
So good. The look on her face, it's triumphant. It's wonderful. I love it.
They went through a lot of revisions on that piece to get her face just right, like the right mix of pride and confidence and sort of like, yes, this is a satisfying conclusion. But the sort of clock tower exploding Independence Day style was like the first thing that came to my mind when I read her ultimate card. I was just like, that's what it's got to be. It's got to be like this iconic symbol of the monarchy absolutely being destroyed. And that feels very, very in tune with her character.
Of course, she's walking away from it in slow motion.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't look back.
Why would she?
It's crazy. It is a static image, but I totally got the slow motion from it.
Right? That's so good.
Excellent. Well, before we head off, I'd love to give you guys a chance to let people know where they can find more of what you're doing and where and when they can get their hands on Queen by Midnight Quarter Past.
You can get Queen by Midnight Quarter Past November 13th, 2024. That's when it's available. If you want to follow what I do, basically just follow Darrington Press on all channels. We've got a lot of great updates, a lot of cool behind the scenes. We're going to be at PAX Unplugged showing off the game. That'll be its first big like convention premiere. So yeah, follow Darrington Press for all the cool new Queen by Midnight stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna be real great. November 13th. Go look at it. It's great. You can follow me at Kyle Shire on all the platforms. Also, I'll see y'all at PAX U, who are going to be there for the Christmas live show. It's going to be real fun. Yay!
Amazing. And you can check out my review for Quarter Past on TechRaptor.net right now. Thank you guys so much for joining me to have this conversation. Looking forward to seeing how other people approach these new, very aggressive characters.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.